All right, now the fun stuff. Let's get into our first basic entry to the hip Kimura. We're gonna go from that same position where bottom player gets an underhook on us, either from half guard or side control. I'm gonna chop through, hand to my body, push it over my hand, lock up my Kimura grip. Again, if it's free, we just finish the Kimura. If they're defending here, we're gonna drop down into our shoulder sandwich position. All the way down onto my shoulder, not onto my elbow. Now I'm gonna float all of my weight on my partner here. I'm not still on my legs, I'm not on my elbow. My hip is floating all of my weight onto my partner. That's gonna allow me to get my inside knee over the top, and I'm replacing my anchor arm first with my knee, right? I can pause here a little bit to make sure they're not actively extending their arm. If he's actively extending his arm while I drop into it, I lose position, he's gonna take my back. He gets his underhook, chop over the shoulder, lock up my Kimura grip, drop down into our shoulder sandwich, shrimp, knee over the top, and I'm gonna pin his arm to his body here. I can wait a little bit until he's resisting or maybe pulling his hand back up onto his body. That's when I'm gonna drop my hip to the ground, puff my elbow out, grab his elbow, or scoop under his leg here. An early name for this position we called the teapot, because here is my handle, here is my spout, and I'm gonna pour out the tea to finish my hip Kimura. Let's do it from another angle. He gets his underhook, chop over, shoulder sandwich, and notice all of my weight is on him. So I can shrimp over the top, pushing his hand onto his body, knee to the ground, pause for a second, hip to the ground. I pull my elbow away from his body, scoop his elbow or cup under his knee, something to prevent him from trying to turn and get on top of me. We finish our hip Kimura. Let's go from this way. Let's try that again. Boom, shrimp, knee to the ground, hip to the ground. Make sure I'm not just pulling up on his shoulder here. That's why we puff our elbow out so we can scoop his elbow. Another common mistake I see is leaving our hand behind us, right? If my hand is still cupping his wrist and my hand is behind me, as I go for it, I'm just gonna apply pressure onto my own shoulder. So I wanna make sure my elbow is next to my body, not behind my body. I wanna make sure his elbow is in front of my body here. So I can scoop, lift my hip just a little bit. If I lift too much, he straightens out his arm and he takes my back. I need to make sure I'm keeping his wrist behind my hip, lifting up just enough to put pressure on him. We might finish it from shoulder pressure. Sometimes we'll just finish from that chest compression where he's not gonna be able to breathe or he's just so pinned, he's gonna tap there. We can scoop under this leg. We can grab. Sometimes you can get away with scooping the leg this way. I don't really like this because it's almost putting myself in a crucifix. So I wanna either scoop under, thumb up when we do it, or as you get better, you'll feel a lot more control where we're just cupping the elbow. We don't really need this, and we could finish here. Sometimes you'll notice your partner's gonna reach over and try to choke you here. That's what we want. The choke's not really there. He doesn't have the angle, and that's almost him giving up the escape to finish it here. A better escape, honestly, would be him just stiff arming behind my neck and trying to push my head away, right, to stop me from putting pressure on him. Later, we'll get into the position we call the kettle because it's getting ready for the teapot, right, where if I can't keep him flat and he's sitting up, I'm gonna sit up too. I'm gonna scoop this arm really deep in front of my body, and I'm bringing my knee to my body so he's not able to straighten out his arm again. Again, we'll get into the transitions, knocking our partner back over from there, but remember, we have an option if I can't keep him flat. Let's see it one more time. We'll go this side. He gets his underhook, chop over, lock up my Kimura, drop down. I'm pushing with my grip to shrimp off the top, knee to the ground, hip to the ground, puff our elbow away from his body, scoop the elbow, lift, and finish here.